The room goes silent for exactly 6 seconds. 6 seconds where time stops inside the House Judiciary Committee hearing room. 6 seconds where the only thing you can hear is the shuffling of papers as Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, adjusts her notebook, buying time. Behind her, just a few feet away, sit the women, the survivors, the girls who were trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. They are watching her back, waiting for her to turn around, waiting for her to acknowledge them. But she won't look at them. She stares straight ahead at Congressman Jerry Nadler, who has just asked her a simple, devastating question. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating? That is the moment the hearing explodes. This was supposed to be a routine oversight hearing. It became the most explosive political theater of the year, a viral meltdown that has been viewed hundreds of millions of times across TikTok, X, and YouTube. It is the moment the carefully constructed facade of the Trump administration's Justice Department cracked live on national television, revealing the fury and fear beneath. When Bondi finally speaks, her voice is low at first, but it rises quickly. She grips her pen, holding it between her fingers, not like she is about to write, but like she is clutching a knife. Body language experts who later analyzed the footage frame by frame noted this exact moment. Patty Wood, a renowned body language expert, told reporters that this was no accident. She's using the pen as a symbolic weapon, Wood explained. It's a secretive weapon. She's making the immediate choice to go into attack mode. And attack she does. I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question, Bondi snarls, jabbing the pen toward Nadler. Your theatrics are ridiculous. The word theatrics becomes her shield. Every time a Democrat asks about Epstein, about the files, about the names that have been redacted, specifically the powerful names, the names of men who were friends with Epstein, Bondi accuses them of engaging in theatrics. She is giving the performance of her life, but the audience of survivors behind her isn't buying it. The hearing quickly devolves into a brawl. Congressman Ted Lee steps up to the plate. He doesn't just ask a question, he brings receipts. He plays footage of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein laughing together at a party. He looks Bondi dead in the eye and asks, I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party, or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein? There is that pause again. Bondi's face flushes. She tries to pivot, talking about the stock market, about how great the economy is doing. But Lee won't let her. He cuts her off, he reclaims his time, and then he drops a bomb that shakes the room to its foundation. I believe you just lied under oath, Lee says, his voice steady and cold. The room gasps. You can hear the rustle of reporters typing furiously. Bondi snaps her head up. Don't you ever accuse me of a crime, she fires back. But Lee is already holding up a document. He reads from a witness statement, a witness who drove Trump in a limo, who overheard a phone call, who came forward with an explosive allegation. The witness claimed he heard Trump brag about raping a girl with Jeffrey Epstein. The witness claimed the girl later ended up dead in what authorities ruled a suicide, but those at the scene reportedly said it could not have been suicide. Shame on you, Lee thunders, pointing at Bondi. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes. The footage of that exchange breaks the internet. It is viewed 50 million times in 12 hours. The comments are flooded with the same question. Why won't she look at the survivors? That question gets answered minutes later. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal has had enough of the political theater. She decides to force the issue. She turns to the gallery where the women are sitting, the women whose lives were destroyed by Epstein and his friends. Please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice, Jayapal instructs them. Every single hand goes up, every single one. Jayapal turns back to Bondi. Will you turn to them now and apologize? This is the money shot. This is the clip that will be played on every late-night show, that will be dissected by psychologists on CNN, that will define Bondi's legacy. Bondi does not turn around. She does not look at the women. She stares at Jayapal, her jaw tight, and says, "Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice." She is deflecting again. The women behind her sit in silence, their hands still raised, their eyes burning holes in the back of the Attorney General's head. She still won't look. The next day, on The View, Whoopi Goldberg is visibly shaking with anger. "This was so personally disgusting and disappointing to me," Whoopi says, struggling to contain herself. "Your job is not to pander to the president. Your job is to look out for American citizens." Joy Behar, never one to mince words, looks directly into the camera and delivers a prophecy. "When he's out of office, he really is going to throw you under the bus, honey." But the attacks aren't just coming from the left. In a moment that shocks political insiders, Bondi turns on one of her own. Congressman Thomas Massie, a Republican from Kentucky, dares to ask her why the Justice Department botched the redaction of the Epstein files, accidentally revealing the names of victims online. He asks a legitimate question about transparency. Bondi's response? "This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. You are a failed politician." Massie is a conservative Republican who endorsed Trump. The insult is so absurd, so out of pocket, that even some Republicans on the committee shift uncomfortably in their seats. Later, Massie tells reporters she's got Massie derangement syndrome. But the damage is done. Bondi has made it clear there is no room for questions about Epstein, even from your own party. Late-night television has a field day. Jimmy Kimmel plays the clip of Bondi screaming at Nadler and jokes, "Did she think she was invited to a mixer? She keeps talking like that. Epstein's gonna come back from the dead and ask for a massage." He compares her to a crazed dance mom berating judges for giving her daughter a low score. "This is the kind of woman who, if you lived next door to her, you'd move," Kimmel quips. "You'd just relocate and never go back to the block." But beneath the jokes, there is a serious question lingering in the air. If the Trump administration has nothing to hide regarding Epstein, why is the Attorney General screaming at anyone who asks? Why are names being redacted? Why won't she meet with the victims? The morning after the hearing, Morning Joe plays the tapes back to back. Joe Scarborough, a former Republican congressman himself, looks physically ill watching the footage. "It's a cover-up," he says flatly. "The cover-up spans decades. She's now the face of the cover-up for this administration." He points out the cruel irony of the situation. The question is about young girls who have been raped, not about the S&P 500. The question is about people all around Donald Trump. The Epstein class who is running this government is still being protected by Pam Bondi. Scarborough's co-host, Mika Brzezinski, issues a stark warning to every Republican watching. For Republicans who remain silent, who continue to follow in these footsteps, it's going to get harder. It's getting harder to do what you do, because it looks terrible. It looks so brutally obvious that you are not working for the American people. And still, the questions pile up. Congressman Hank Johnson takes a different tact. He asks Bondi directly about the rumors that have been swirling around Washington, D.C. for weeks. It has been reported that 1,000 personnel are assigned to the task of identifying and scrubbing Trump's name from the Epstein files. Is that accurate? Bondi hesitates. For a moment, the mask slips. "I believe his name has appeared countless times in the documents," she admits. Countless times. She says the words herself. Johnson presses harder. Were the reports accurate? Bondi backs down, mumbling, "I cannot give you an exact number." But the admission is out there. Trump's name appears countless times, and the administration has assigned personnel to go through those files.
The question everyone is asking on social media is simple. If Trump did nothing wrong, why do you need a team of 1,000 people to scrub his name? The hearing eventually ends after nearly 5 hours of shouting, pointing, and name-calling. As Bondi gathers her papers and stands up to leave, the survivors are still sitting in the gallery. She walks past them without a word. She doesn't make eye contact. She doesn't apologize. She just walks out. Outside the hearing room, Congressman Jamie Raskin, who Bondi had called a washed-up loser lawyer during the hearing, stops to talk to reporters. He looks exhausted but defiant. "I can't believe that the Attorney General of the United States of America would appear before hundreds of millions of Americans this way. My God, we've got to get back to the America that we had before they dragged us down into the mud like this." But that America feels very far away. The Epstein files remain partially sealed. The victims remain without justice, and Pam Bondi, the woman who swore to uphold the law, has become the face of a stonewall that stretches from the White House to the Department of Justice. As the clips continue to rack up views, hitting 100 million, then 200 million, the internet does what it does best. It creates memes, it creates parodies, but beneath the laughter, there is an undercurrent of rage. The survivors raised their hands, the Attorney General refused to look, and the world watched it all happen in real time. The question now is whether anyone in Washington has the power to make her turn around. But the story doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. In fact, that is when the real drama begins. Behind closed doors, sources say Bondi was furious, not at the Democrats who grilled her, but at her own staff for failing to prepare her for the Epstein questions. According to insiders who spoke to reporters on condition of anonymity, Bondi screamed at her deputy attorney general for 30 minutes after returning to the Justice Department. "You told me this wouldn't come up," she allegedly shouted, throwing a stack of briefing papers across the room. The deputy, a career official who had served under both Republican and Democratic administrations, reportedly stood in silence, letting the storm pass. The tension inside the Justice Department has been building for months. Career prosecutors, the ones who actually investigate crimes, have been quietly resigning in droves. They see the writing on the wall. They know that pursuing Epstein's co-conspirators means going after powerful men, men who attended parties, who flew on the Lolita Express, who have their own private islands, and they know that under Bondi's leadership, those men will never be touched. One former federal prosecutor, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation, told a news outlet, "We had cases ready to go. We had witness testimony. We had flight logs. We had everything. And then the political appointees came in and said, 'Not now, not these people.' It's demoralizing. It's corruption, plain and simple."
The victims, meanwhile, are not staying silent. In the days following the hearing, several of the survivors held a press conference of their own. They stood behind a podium in a small room in Washington, D.C., their faces showing the weight of decades of betrayal. One woman, who was trafficked as a teenager, spoke directly to the cameras. "I raised my hand in that hearing room," she said, her voice cracking. "I raised my hand because I have been waiting 20 years for someone in power to look me in the eye and tell me they're sorry. I'm still waiting." Pam Bondi walked right past me. She didn't even glance my way. That tells me everything I need to know about who she works for. Another survivor, who had flown in from Florida specifically for the hearing, held up a photo of herself at 14 years old, a smiling girl with braces and a ponytail, before her life was destroyed. "This is who they're protecting," she said, pointing at the photo. "Not just me, every girl in this picture. Some of us are dead now. Some of us couldn't take it anymore. And the Attorney General of the United States can't even turn her head to look at us? Shame on her. Shame on every single one of them."
The press conference went viral almost immediately. Clips were shared millions of times, often accompanied by the same hashtag, "Turn around, Pam." It became a rallying cry. On social media, users photoshopped Bondi's face onto images of ostriches with their heads in the sand. They created memes showing her walking past burning buildings, past crying children, past disaster after disaster, refusing to look. The internet's verdict was swift and merciless. Pam Bondi is the woman who won't turn around. But the political fallout is just beginning. In the Republican Party, there are rumblings of discontent. Not because anyone cares about the victims, at least not publicly, but because Bondi's performance was seen as a political liability. Swing voters, the kind who decide elections, were reportedly horrified by the footage. Focus groups conducted by Republican polling firms showed that independent women in particular were repulsed by Bondi's behavior. "She looked like a bully," one focus group participant said. "She looked like she was hiding something. If that's what the Justice Department has become, I don't want any part of it." Privately, some Republican strategists are urging the White House to distance itself from Bondi. But that's easier said than done. Bondi has been a loyal soldier for Trump for years. She defended him during his first impeachment. She appeared on Fox News countless times to praise his leadership. She is, in many ways, the embodiment of Trump's Justice Department, combative, defensive, and utterly unwilling to acknowledge any wrongdoing, no matter how overwhelming the evidence. Trump himself has remained publicly silent about the hearing, which is unusual. Normally, he would be on Truth Social within hours, praising Bondi's toughness and attacking the Democrats as lowlifes. But this time, the posts haven't come. Insiders speculate that Trump is furious about the revelation that his name appears countless times in the Epstein files. They say he blames Bondi for not shutting down the questions more effectively, for letting the truth slip out. He doesn't want anyone talking about Epstein, period. If you're his attorney general, your job is to make Epstein disappear. She failed. And so, Bondi finds herself in a lonely position, attacked by Democrats, mocked by late-night hosts, distanced by her own party, and ignored by the president she sacrificed her reputation to serve. It is a political death spiral, playing out in real time for the entire world to see. Meanwhile, the calls for her resignation are growing louder. Editorial boards across the country, from the New York Times to the Washington Post to smaller local papers, have published scathing pieces demanding that Bondi step down. Legal ethics scholars have weighed in, arguing that her behavior during the hearing violated the basic norms of her office. The Attorney General is not supposed to be a political attack dog. She is supposed to be the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. She took an oath to uphold the Constitution, not to protect the president's friends. By every measure, she has failed in that duty. But Bondi shows no signs of backing down. In fact, she seems to be doubling down. In a rare interview with a conservative news outlet after the hearing, she dismissed her critics as liberal hacks and fake news reporters. She claimed the hearing was a setup designed to embarrass the president. She insisted that the Justice Department is fully investigating Epstein's network, even though she refused to provide any specifics. And when the interviewer asked about the survivors who raised their hands, Bondi's face hardened. "I have nothing to say to them. They're being used by Democrats as props. It's disgusting." That comment, more than any other, sealed her fate. The survivors, who had endured years of trauma, who had come to Washington seeking justice, who had sat in that hearing room hoping for a shred of acknowledgement, they were props. The word hung in the air like poison. Within hours, hashtag Pam Bondi is disgusting was trending on social media. Celebrities, politicians, and ordinary citizens alike condemned her. Even some conservatives, the ones who still had a shred of decency, quietly distanced themselves. But the story is far from over. Behind the scenes, there are rumors of a criminal investigation, not into Epstein's co-conspirators, but into Bondi herself. Sources say the FBI has received multiple complaints accusing Bondi of obstructing justice by refusing to pursue leads in the Epstein case. Legal experts say it's a long shot. Prosecuting an attorney general for misconduct is nearly impossible, but the very existence of the complaints is a sign of how toxic the situation has become. And then there are the documents, the infamous Epstein files, which Bondi's team has been reviewing for months, remain largely hidden from public view. But leaks are starting to emerge. Whistleblowers within the Justice Department have reportedly provided copies of some documents to congressional investigators. If those documents ever see the light of day, if they contain the names that everyone suspects they contain, the political landscape could shift overnight. For now, though, the focus remains on that hearing room, on those 6 seconds of silence, on the women with their hands raised, on the Attorney General who wouldn't turn around. In the weeks that follow, the image becomes iconic. It is printed on T-shirts and protest signs. It is projected on the side of government buildings during demonstrations. It is used in political ads attacking not just Bondi, but every Republican who enabled her. The message is simple and devastating. This is who they are. This is what they do. They look away. And so the question lingers, unanswered, unresolved, burning in the minds of millions. What are they hiding? What is so terrible, so damning, so destructive that the Attorney General of the United States would rather destroy her own reputation than face the truth? What names are in those files? What powerful people are being protected? The survivors know. They have always known. They sat in that room, their hands raised, their eyes fixed on the back of Pam Bondi's head, waiting for her to turn around. She never did. But history has a way of demanding answers, and history, unlike Pam Bondi, always turns around eventually. The hearing may be over, but the reckoning is just beginning. In living rooms across America, in college dorm rooms and coffee shops and subway cars, people are watching the clips. They are asking questions. They are demanding transparency. They are refusing to look away. And somewhere in a quiet room in Washington, D.C., a group of women are planning their next move. They have been silenced for too long. They have been ignored for too long. They have been used as props for too long. Now they're done waiting. They are coming for the truth. And this time, no one, not Pam Bondi, not the Justice Department, not the President himself, will be able to stop them. The cameras may have stopped rolling, but the story is far from over. In fact, it's just getting started. The survivors are speaking, the internet is watching, and the world is waiting for the moment when Pam Bondi finally has no choice but to turn around. When that moment comes, and it will come, there will be no place left to hide, no deflection, no theatrics, no pen to clutch like a knife. Just the truth, staring her in the face, demanding to be seen. And on that day, the women with their hands raised will finally get what they came for: justice.
Or at least the closest thing to it that this broken world can offer. But until then, the silence lingers, the questions pile up, and the image of Pam Bondi walking past the survivors without a glance plays on endless loop across the screens of a nation that cannot, will not forget.
Because some images are impossible to unsee, and some betrayals are impossible to forgive. The hearing room is empty now. The chairs are stacked. The microphones are off. But if you listen closely, if you really listen, you can still hear it. The echo of 6 seconds of silence stretching into eternity, waiting for someone in power to do the right thing. So far, no one has. But the women are still waiting, and the world is watching. Always watching.